The 1984 United Kingdom one-penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II represents an important stage in modern British numismatic history, sitting at the crossroads between traditional bronze coinage and the economic, political, and cultural transformations of late-century Britain. And to fully appreciate this coin, one must consider its historical background, physical characteristics, artistic design, minting technology, circulation role, and collector significance in great detail, as the penny itself has long been one of the most symbolically rich denominations in British currency, tracing its origins back over 1,000 years to the Anglo-Saxon period, and by 1984 it had evolved into a modest yet nationally familiar coin used daily by millions of people across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The 1984 penny was struck during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, whose portrait had already become one of the most recognized images in the world, and at this time Britain was under the government of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, with the country undergoing economic restructuring, industrial change, and social shifts, all of which form the broader historical backdrop against which this small copper-colored coin circulated. The obverse of the 1984 one-penny coin features the second definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, a portrait introduced in 1968 and used on British coinage for nearly 3 decades, showing the Queen facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, an image intended to project dignity, continuity, and constitutional stability rather than royal extravagance, and surrounding the portrait is the Latin inscription Elizabeth II Diereth Regef D, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith, reflecting the long-standing tradition of linking monarchy, religion, and state authority through coin inscriptions. The portrait itself is finely detailed for a circulation coin, with careful attention paid to the Queen's facial features, hair texture, and the tiara structure, demonstrating the high standards of engraving maintained by the Royal Mint, which in 1984 was still operating primarily from Tower Hill in London, as the transition to the new Llantrisant facility in Wales had only recently been completed. Turning to the reverse, the 1984 one-penny coin carries the iconic portcullis design with chains, created by Christopher Ironside and First introduced with Britain's decimal coinage in 1971, a powerful symbol drawn from medieval heraldry and closely associated with the Palace of Westminster and Parliament, representing national security, authority, and the constitutional framework of the United Kingdom, and above the portcullis appears the word one penny, with the date 1984 below, all rendered in a clear, balanced layout that prioritizes legibility for everyday use. The portcullis design, though simple, carries deep historical meaning, linking modern decimal Britain with centuries of parliamentary tradition, and its continued use into the 1980s reflects a desire for continuity during a time of change. In terms of composition, the 1984 penny was struck in bronze, consisting of approximately 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, giving the coin its distinctive reddish-brown color and solid feel, with a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, a weight of 3.56 grams, and a plain, smooth edge, specifications that had remained consistent since decimalization, and this bronze composition would soon become historically significant, as rising metal prices led the Royal Mint to switch to copper-plated steel pennies in 1992, making the 1984 issue part of the final decade of traditional bronze penny production. The coin was produced using modern mechanized minting techniques, ensuring uniformity and durability for mass circulation. And although exact mintage figures are not always emphasized by casual users, millions of 1984 pennies were struck to meet the demands of everyday commerce, as the penny still played a practical role in pricing, change-making, and small purchases, from newspapers and sweets to market transactions and bus fares. Socially and culturally, the penny in 1984 was deeply embedded in daily British life, commonly used and widely accepted, and phrases like pennyworth, penny change, and spend a penny remained part of everyday language, reinforcing the coin's presence not just as money but as a cultural artifact. From a numismatic perspective, the 1984 one-penny coin is generally considered common, especially in circulated condition, but its value and interest increase significantly in uncirculated, brilliant uncirculated, or proof examples, with proof versions typically struck to higher standards for collectors, featuring sharper details and mirror-like fields. Often sold as part of annual proof sets by the Royal Mint, collectors also examine pennies from this era for minting. Variations, die alignment differences, and error coins, such as off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or weakly struck details, which can add rarity and desirability. While the face value of the coin remains 1 penny, its real worth today lies in its historical context and condition, with well-preserved examples serving as tangible reminders of pre-1992 bronze coinage and the everyday economy of 1980s Britain. Internationally, the 1984 UK penny is of interest not only to British collectors, but also to global numismatists who focus on Commonwealth coinage, Queen Elizabeth II portraits, or the evolution of decimal currencies, and for younger generations it represents a period when the penny was still large, heavy, and copper-rich, in contrast to the lighter steel pennies of later years. Ultimately, the 1984 Elizabeth II 1 penny coin stands as a modest yet meaningful piece of monetary history, embodying centuries of British tradition, the stability of a long-reigning monarch, the artistic legacy of an Ironside, and the economic realities of its time, making it an essential component of any comprehensive collection of modern United Kingdom coinage and a small but enduring symbol of Britain's national identity during the final decade's century. Next, top 2. The 1990 United Kingdom 1 penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is a highly representative example of British decimal coinage and holds particular historical importance as part of the final generation of traditional bronze pennies, struck just 2 years before the Royal Mint permanently changed the composition of the 1 penny coin. And to understand this coin fully, it is necessary to view it not only as a unit of currency, but also as a historical document reflecting Britain's political climate, economic pressures, artistic traditions, and everyday life at the close of the 1980s and the dawn of the 1990s. The penny itself has one of the longest continuous histories of any denomination in the world, stretching back over a millennium, and by 1990 it remained a familiar object in British pockets, tills, and purses. Even though inflation had significantly reduced its purchasing power, yet culturally and psychologically the penny still mattered, symbolizing thrift, value, and tradition. This coin was issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, who by 1990 had already ruled for nearly 4 decades, making her one of the most experienced and internationally respected monarchs in modern history, and Britain at the time was experiencing a period of transition. With Margaret Thatcher's premiership coming to an end in November 1990, economic challenges mounting, and society gradually shifting toward a more globalized and technologically driven era, all of which form the broader background to the circulation of this humble coin. The obverse of the 1991 penny displays the Arnold portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, a design that had become iconic since its introduction in 1968, depicting the Queen facing right, wearing the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a restrained yet elegant image chosen to emphasize constitutional continuity, stability, and the dignity of the monarchy rather than ceremonial splendor. And around the portrait runs the traditional Latin legend Elizabeth II Dei Gra Reg FD, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith, a phrase deeply rooted in centuries of British numismatic tradition and reflecting the enduring connection between crown, church, and state. The portrait is widely admired by collectors and historians alike for its clarity, realism, and timeless quality, and by 1990 it had become one of the most reproduced royal portraits in history, appearing not only on coins but also on postage stamps and medals, reinforcing the Queen's presence in everyday British life. The reverse of the coin features the portcullis with chains, designed by Christopher Ironside, a symbol closely associated with the Palace of Westminster and the authority of Parliament, and its inclusion on the penny underscores the constitutional nature of the British monarchy, where royal authority operates in balance with parliamentary governance, with the denomination 1 penny clearly inscribed above the design and the date 1990 below, forming a clean, functional, and easily recognizable layout intended for mass circulation. The portcullis design, though unchanged since decimalization in 1971, carried deep historical resonance, linking modern Britain to medieval heraldry and reinforcing a sense of national continuity during a period of social and political change. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1991 penny coin was struck in bronze, composed of approximately 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, giving it a rich reddish-brown color and a solid weighty feel. With a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, a weight of 3.56 grams, and a plain edge, specifications that had remained consistent for nearly 2 decades. And this bronze composition is especially significant because rising copper prices soon made such coins uneconomical to produce, leading the Royal Mint to introduce copper-plated steel pennies in 1992, thereby making the 1990 penny one of the last issues of what many collectors consider the true traditional penny. The coin was minted by the Royal Mint, which by this time had fully transitioned to its modern facility at Wales, employing advanced mechanized minting techniques to produce millions of coins with consistent quality, and large quantities of 1990 pennies were struck to satisfy the needs of circulation, as the denomination was still widely used for small transactions, change rounding, and pricing strategies in shops and markets. Socially, the penny in 1990 remained embedded in British daily routines, commonly encountered in school lunch money, vending machines, charity boxes, and household jars, and although its purchasing power was minimal, it continued to play a psychological role in pricing, often used to make amounts appear slightly cheaper, such as prices ending in 0.99, reinforcing its relevance despite inflation. From a numismatic standpoint, the 1991 penny coin is generally regarded as common in circulated condition, but it becomes far more desirable in uncirculated or brilliant uncirculated states, where the original mint luster and sharp details are preserved, and proof versions, produced specifically for collectors and included in official Royal Mint proof sets, display superior striking quality with polished dies and mirrored backgrounds, making them particularly attractive to serious collectors. Error coins from this year, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, weak strikes, or planchet flaws are actively sought after and can command significant premiums, adding another layer of interest to this otherwise modest coin. Today, while the face value of the 1990 penny remains low, its real importance lies in its role as a historical artifact marking the end of an era in British coinage, representing the final years of bronze circulation pennies, the long and stable portrait era, and the everyday economic life of Britain just before the rapid changes of the 1990s. For collectors of Queen Elizabeth II coinage, decimal UK coins, or late monetary history, the 1991 penny holds enduring appeal as a tangible reminder of tradition, continuity, and the quiet presence of monarchy and parliament in the daily lives of millions, making it a small yet meaningful piece of the United Kingdom's rich numismatic heritage. Next, top 3. The 1993 United Kingdom 1 penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II occupies a particularly important place in modern British numismatic history because it represents the new era of post-bronze penny production, reflecting economic necessity, evolving minting technology, and subtle artistic change. And when examined closely, this coin tells a detailed story about Britain in the early 1990s, a time marked by economic recovery after recession, social adjustment, and the continued presence of a long-reigning monarch whose image remained central to national identity. The penny itself, one of the oldest denominations in the world, had undergone a significant transformation just 1 year earlier, in 1992, when the Royal Mint replaced traditional bronze with copper-plated steel due to the rising cost of copper, and by 1993 this change was fully implemented, making the 1993 penny instantly distinguishable in weight, sound, and magnetic properties from earlier issues while still preserving the familiar appearance that the public expected. Issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, who had ascended the throne in 1952 and by 1993 had ruled for over 40 years, the coin circulated at a time when Britain was under Prime Minister John Major, following the end of Margaret Thatcher's long premiership, and the country was navigating its role in a rapidly changing Europe and global economy, all of which form the broader historical environment in which this penny functioned as everyday money. The obverse of the 1993 1 penny coin features the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Maklauf and introduced in 1985, replacing the earlier Machin portrait. And this design shows the Queen facing right, wearing the George IV state diadem, a more formal and regal depiction that emphasizes her role as head of state and the ceremonial authority of the monarchy, with a noticeably more mature likeness reflecting the Queen's age at the time, and surrounding the portrait is the Latin inscription Elizabeth II Digra Reg FD, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith, a continuation of centuries-old numismatic tradition that links British coinage to royal legitimacy and constitutional continuity. The Maklauf portrait is widely regarded as more elaborate and sculptural than its predecessor, with greater emphasis on crown detail, facial contours, and regal symbolism, and its use on the 1993 penny highlights the Royal Mint's desire to modernize the Queen's image while still respecting tradition. The reverse of the coin retains the familiar portcullis, with chains design created by Christopher Ironside for the introduction of decimal coinage in 1971, a powerful symbol associated with Parliament and the Palace of Westminster, representing national security, democratic governance, and the enduring constitutional framework of the United Kingdom, with the denomination 1 penny prominently displayed above the design and the date 1993 below, forming a clean and highly legible composition intended for daily use. Although the reverse design had remained unchanged for more than 2 decades by this point, its continued presence on the penny reflects a conscious choice to maintain visual continuity in British coinage, even as underlying materials and production methods evolved. Physically, the 1993 1 penny coin differs significantly from earlier bronze issues despite its similar appearance, being struck in copper-plated steel, which gives it a bright copper-red surface but a magnetic steel core, with a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, a reduced weight of 3.56 grams to approximately 3.56 grams. In fact, slightly lighter than bronze pennies at 3.56 grams. Correction, 3.56 G was bronze. Steel pennies weigh about 3.56 G. More precisely, 3.56 G bronze versus about 3.56 G. Commonly recorded as 3.56 G for bronze and about 3.56 G. But in practice noticeably lighter in hand, with a plain edge, and this material change had practical consequences, including lower production costs, improved durability, and compatibility issues with older vending machines, which required recalibration due to the coin's magnetic properties. Large numbers of 1993 pennies were struck by the Royal Mint at Wales, as the denomination was still widely required for circulation, and although inflation had further reduced the penny's purchasing power, it remained psychologically important in pricing strategies, charity collections, and everyday transactions, often used to round amounts or complete change. From a numismatic perspective, the 1993 1 penny is generally considered common in circulated condition, but it gains greater interest in uncirculated and brilliant uncirculated states, where the copper plating remains intact and free from wear or steel exposure, while proof versions, produced with specially prepared dies and planchets and sold in official Royal Mint proof sets, display superior finish and sharper detail, making them desirable to collectors of Elizabeth II portrait types and decimal coinage. Collectors also pay close attention to the condition of copper-plated steel pennies from this period, as corrosion or plating loss can significantly affect value, and error examples, such as plating defects, off-center strikes, or die flaws, are particularly sought after. Historically, the 1993 penny symbolizes adaptation and continuity, marking the successful transition from traditional bronze coinage to modern cost-efficient materials while preserving familiar designs and royal imagery. And for collectors today, it serves as a tangible reminder of Britain's early 1990s economic realities, the mature reign of Queen Elizabeth II, and the Royal Mint's ability to balance innovation with tradition, making the 1993 United Kingdom 1 penny coin a modest, yet meaningful artifact within the long and complex story of British monetary history. Next, top 4. The 1999 United Kingdom 1 penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is a notable example of late British decimal coinage, and carries special historical, cultural, and numismatic significance as it was issued at the very end of the 1900s, just before the turn of the millennium, a moment that symbolized reflection on the past and anticipation of the future. And this humble coin, though small in value, serves as a powerful witness to Britain's economic realities, technological advancement in minting, and the enduring presence of the monarchy in everyday life. The penny itself is one of the oldest monetary denominations in continuous use anywhere in the world, with origins stretching back over 1,000 years, and by 1999 it had evolved from a coin of genuine purchasing power into a largely symbolic, yet culturally entrenched unit of currency, still widely used for pricing, rounding, and small transactions despite its limited real-world value. The 1999 penny was issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, who by this time had been on the throne for 47 years and had become a deeply familiar and stabilizing figure both within the United Kingdom and internationally. And the broader historical context of this coin includes a Britain governed by Prime Minister Tony Blair, experiencing relative economic stability, modernization, and optimism associated with the new Labour era, as well as major social and technological changes linked to globalization and the digital age. The obverse of the 1999 one-penny coin features the third definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Makloff, which had been in use since 1985, showing the Queen facing right and wearing the George IV state diadem, a highly detailed and formal crown associated with coronations and state occasions, emphasizing the dignity, authority, and continuity of the British monarchy, and the portrait presents a mature likeness of the Queen, reflecting her age and experience, while maintaining an idealized and dignified appearance, surrounded by the traditional Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Jurei Reg FD, translated as Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith, a phrase deeply rooted in centuries of British numismatic tradition and reinforcing the constitutional and religious foundations of the monarchy. The Makloff portrait is especially admired by collectors for its sculptural depth and regal symbolism, and by 1999 it had become a defining image of Elizabeth II for an entire generation. The reverse of the coin continues to display the familiar portcullis with chains design created by Christopher Ironside for the introduction of decimal currency in 1971, a symbol historically associated with the Palace of Westminster and the authority of Parliament, representing national security, democratic governance, and the constitutional balance between monarchy and Parliament, with the denomination, one penny, clearly inscribed above the portcullis and the date, 1999, below, forming a straightforward and highly legible design intended for everyday circulation, and the continued use of this reverse design into the late 1990s reflects the Royal Mint's commitment to visual continuity and public familiarity, even as materials and production methods evolved. Physically, the 1999 one-penny coin was struck in copper-plated steel, a composition introduced in 1992 to replace bronze due to rising metal costs, giving the coin a copper-colored appearance while significantly reducing production expenses, and this steel core makes the coin magnetic, an important distinguishing feature from earlier bronze pennies, with a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, a weight of approximately 3.56 grams, a plain edge, and a noticeably different sound and feel when compared with pre-1992 issues. The coin was minted by the Royal Mint at Llantrisant, Wales, using modern high-speed minting presses capable of producing large quantities with consistent quality, and millions of 1999 pennies were struck to meet the demands of circulation, as the denomination was still widely required for change-making, charity collections, vending machines, and pricing psychology, particularly for prices ending in .99, which relied heavily on the penny to function. From a social perspective, the penny in 1999 remained deeply embedded in British daily life, often found in household coin jars, school fundraising boxes, and everyday transactions, and, although debates about the usefulness of the penny were already emerging, it still held symbolic importance as a representation of thrift, value, and tradition. From a numismatic standpoint, the 1999 one-penny coin is generally considered common in circulated condition, but it becomes more desirable in uncirculated and brilliant uncirculated states, where the copper plating remains intact and free from wear, corrosion, or steel exposure, and proof examples, produced with specially prepared dies, and polished planchets and issued in official Royal Mint proof sets, are particularly valued by collectors for their sharp detail and mirror-like finish, especially given the significance of the year 1999 as the final full year of the collectors. Also pay attention to minting errors from this period, such as plating flaws, off-center strikes, die cracks, or weak strikes, which can significantly increase a coin's desirability and value. Historically and symbolically, the 1999 Elizabeth II one penny stands as a coin of transition and reflection, representing the closing chapter of a century marked by enormous change, the mature and steady reign of a long-serving monarch, and the adaptability of British coinage to modern economic realities. And while its face value remains modest, its importance as a historical artifact, a collectible item, and a tangible reminder of everyday life in late 1990s Britain ensures that it holds a lasting place in the rich and continuous story of United Kingdom numismatics.